Alright, guys. Hello, YouTube. This is Washable Platypi, and we are live on twitch.tv/Washable Platypi, and we are doing our Veritas podcast for RTA. Right now, I have Mr. Doobix, Mace, and Rikazo, or Ozakir. That's his in-game name. And we're just gonna talk about the meta right now, and we might do a tier list, although Doobix said tier list dumb content, so I don't know.
That means we absolutely have to do a tier list.
Yeah,
I mean, all you do really for a tier list is just you put the staple units like the golden boys, and then you just go based on what the meta is, right?
Yeah, true.
How relevant is it to the meta? And I don't know. I think arbitrary numbers are just kind of pointless because everything is kind of usable. Like, for example, I use DJ Bazaar sometimes, but he's pretty dog right now.
I think the real value of a tier list is making other people mauled at how wrong you are.
I think so too. So Fire CC S tier.
Triple D tier.
I also think that different units are good for different people, just depending on your playstyle. So it's kind of hard to make a universal tier list for everyone.
Yeah, that's fair. I think for the most part, we would all say that the Golden Boys are probably premium units to use in RTA right now. But yeah, so I kind of just wanted to talk about. So last season, I don't think. Doobix, you didn't really push, right? You
No, I literally just AFK'd.
You played,
I just
but you didn't.
played once in a while. Yeah.
Rikazo, you pushed for a bit, but then you boomed.
I only played early on in the season, and then I got addicted to Genshin and shit, so I don't really play anymore. So I just AFK'd in Master/Champion at the end.
Yeah, and then Mace, I know you played a little bit on the last day, right?
Oh yeah, I pushed and failed.
It's okay. We get it this season.
Yeah, hopefully.
But I kind of just wanted to talk about how this season to you is different than last season or seasons previous. I feel like this RTA season is more favorable for a lot of players in terms of just drafting styles and the ability to use multiple units, and you can do multiple play styles and still, well, you can't really cleave anymore, but you can still.
I mean, you can't standard
people
cleave.
still cleave.
Yeah, you can't standard cleave, but I think if you get creative with G.Purg, you can still cleave. So
it's just not the Flitica A-Lots stuff that we saw last season.
But yeah, I guess we could start with Doobix, I guess, and how do you feel like this season is different from the other seasons, and then we'll go to Rikazo and then Mace.
So I think the biggest change was the frenzy change. The fact that HP scaling units like Lencia, like ML Haste, their late game, or especially Flurry as well, their late game got nerfed really hard because of the fact that Frenzy doesn't give you damage amplification anymore. Oh, you can't just for example, Flurry can't 1v3 the same way she used to, right? You just hit a S3, you'd hit him with the S1, and you just chunk half their health. And Frenzy 8, Frenzy 9, but you can't do that anymore. So everyone is just getting progressively, not necessarily faster in the sense that, just gear speed, but people are drafting much more aggressively because they know that the longer the game goes, it's much more favorable for attack heroes. So, I think this current meta is pretty fun for me, minus the fact that G.Purg is just such a oppressive unit. But besides that, yeah, I'm having fun.
Okay, Rikazo, it's your turn.
Yeah, so I mean, as you know, I didn't play too much last season, but I do believe that a lot of tanks as well as units like Ruel were very strong last season because games were so drawn out. And the difference now is games are usually decided within the first few turns, whether it's cleave or just a comp like G.Purg with A-Tai when it relies on CCing to death. And so I think that right now the most important thing is having units that have very impactful early turns. I think units like Ray, especially, I run a lot of Ray, are very good just because their first couple turns are so strong, and that's usually what decides the victory in a lot of cases. And yeah, like G.Purg as well, of course, because just being able to cut with your whole team you can usually lead to just you winning right away. So I think units with impactful first turns as well as attack scaling units are very strong in this current meta.
And I will add to like I know Rikazo like started off like his legend push earlier this season before G.Purg was super popular, and he was using it more like I know some people used it as a counter pick, but I think Rikazo is one of the few people to use it as more of an aggressive early pick, which is
Yeah,
kind of
I
interesting.
picked a lot of G.Purg early in the season. I think I don't remember when the season started, but roughly over a month ago. And I picked G.Purg almost like first pick every game, or like first couple picks or third pick occasionally. And I just think he was really strong and helped a lot with my climb.
All right, and Mace.
I think I'm having a lot more fun this season than I did last time, mostly just because the games feel a lot more dynamic. Last season, when you would start a match, it kind of felt like you had like 3 to 5 minutes of waiting before the real match started. Like nothing could happen until Frenzy ticked up. Like no one could do any damage, and that felt like a big time sink that wasn't very entertaining for me. So just on that basis alone, I like the changes they made. I totally agree that people are drafting more aggressively now, and you really need to have impactful early units. I used Angelic Montmorency a fair bit in season 2 to combat debuff teams, and I've tried using her in this season, and it just feels like you're trying to get over this hill in the beginning with her, and it's like really hard to do because her cleanses are kind of like constant, and spread over time, rather than like a huge cleanse that just wipes all the debuffs out right away, like Ray. And so you can easily get overwhelmed and just lose the game for that reason. Um, I think one thing, like I think Flurry though, as Doobix mentioned, I think Flurry scales off defense. So I'm going to be interested to see how like the new unit, who also scales off defense, does into the later Frenzy, because the HP changes they really hurt units like Alencia, um, into the late game. But I think the defensive scaling heroes are still really good into late Frenzy.
Yeah, I've definitely still been soloed by a Flurry in like a 1v3, and it felt real bad. I gotta say.
Same.
I mean, if you don't have the damage, yeah, like she can still solo you because she has so much healing built in. But like,
But her healing, like the healing is scales off of her HP, but her damage scales off of her defense.
yeah, it's the
I think
because
it's
they changed the
the heal
frenzy.
buff too. Heal buff
Yeah.
with Justice
Yeah.
for All. Really, like if she starts proccing multiple heal buffs, it becomes extremely hard to like get over that.
Yeah.
hump.
Well, it's because they changed frenzy, right? The way instead of the damage amplification, it's attack percent and effectiveness, right? So it does hurt her damage in that sense because even though she scales off of defense, she doesn't get that damage amplification.
Correct.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, this season for me, as opposed to last season, I think
Yo, what up?
as a Gab gamer, I'm kind of enjoying the season a lot more. I feel like the damage dealers that I'm drafting are pretty. They have more impact, right? Like before, like Mace said, like you kind of had to wait until Frenzy, right, before like you could even start breaking through these defense buffed knights or like FCC, right? But now, like, it feels like even in Frenzy like 2, right? Like you can start seeing meaningful damage increase, which is pretty nice. I think it benefits a lot of people that use units like Fire Ravi and MLV too. Like Remnant Violet, like in Frenzy 3, is pretty scary. Like the damage increase is kind of nuts. But I think overall this season in particular is a lot more favorable for players, which is probably why we see such an insane like point increase for all of Legend. It's kind of crazy.
Games are a lot shorter now too.
Yeah,
I
think it's a
another
combination.
part of it.
Yeah, it's a combination of games being shorter on top of the fact that they also announced their world championship thing.
Such
Mhm.
assholes.
So so not only did the point gain start out really high this season, it just like accelerated because of it.
I also feel
So
like
it's the
there's a lot more
iteration.
people climbing. Maybe that's just
Yeah.
me though.
Yeah, I think
I think
overall
so.
the diversity this season is, at least to me, a bit better than last season. But
I do
yeah,
think there's
granted,
more
we
picks.
still have the Golden Boys meta. But I think Golden Boys is a very flexible flexible meta. So
It is, yeah.
I think they benefit a lot from the new frenzy changes too, in my opinion. Just with like the effectiveness change, I'm looking more at like ML Taiwan, right? Like,
I think it's indirect because what ended up happening was because it's harder to you get less benefit for scaling. As Rakaza said, it's there's more benefit to just running it down in the first few turns, right? Like mashing 4S3s is a very viable solution at the moment.
hey,
So
that's my draft. I
I
really
mean,
like it
that is
when
my draft too, but like
when all
that's
I have
how
to
I've always
do
played.
when all I have to do is Soulburn Bazaar skill 3, and then I can let the game play itself.
Yeah.
That's the
Well,
dream.
I think on that topic though, right? Like right now book is very valuable.
Oh,
Like everyone is just
book is
trying to shove
insane.
like all you try to do is just shove as many books into your comp if you can, and like just soul burn everything and kill everyone. It's great. I love it. It's very enjoyable knowing that you pick like 25k HP units and they just do the same thing as 8k HP units.
I've started to see a lot more like book on units like ML Ball too. Like I know Proof of Valor and like Crown were pretty valuable, but like I think just having the extra souls for soul burning is more valuable now more than ever.
Yeah, 100%. I think the biggest thing with book is that it provides consistency to your team. And consistency is it's as premium as defense break in my opinion. Defense break incredibly premium in breaking through comps. Book, it just because you aren't relying on, for example, crown procs, which whether you love or hate are really funny. The 20 souls just provides you so much consistency, like whether you can either burn Bazaar and guarantee, unbuffable and pushback, or burn a Tywin, burn ML Crowd, burn G.Purg if you want, burn Berseria. Like there's so many people that you can burn at the moment that just have so much impact that it just works so well. And that's why people are sticking it on like tea time, people are sticking it on ball. That's why Stenny's always typically run book nowadays. Yeah.
Yeah, I think like the value in soul burns too, right? Like all the burns that you're mentioning are either like ignore effect res, like which is insanely valuable right now, I would say, for like units like specifically Bazaar, right? But not only that, it's the turn, like the cooldown reducing soul burns. Being able to cycle those big skill 3s is actually huge. Like ML Tywin is a prime example of that, right? Like being able to start like the endless cycle of soul burning his skill 3, it's kind of gross, right? Like if you have 2 books on your team and you're able to soul burn Bazaar and then immediately follow that up with like a soul burn ML Tywin,
Yeah.
you've almost won the match at that point.
Yeah, because I find it very hard to get enough souls to soulburn his first S3 without having a book, because usually you'll take like maybe turn 3 or 4 and you won't have enough souls to actually start the soulburn on a Taiwan, but if you have a book you can start it right away, and basically just, if you land your stuns, you kind of just infinitely CC them to death at the very start of the game.
Yeah. And
Yeah, it can be hard to get that second book on your team, but if you do it, it's pretty sick.
I also think like the only comp that I've ever drafted where like I'm able to have enough souls is if I draft top model Lulika, which is very seldom. But if you're
Really,
like able to skill 3 and then skill 2, skill 3, I think that's enough souls for a soul burn on ML Tywin.
Yeah, at the moment, I think one of the best ways to get 40 souls is Bazaar Esteni, and then obviously G.Purg, right? That's why that 3-man combo, like if you draft that 3-man combo, and you just have no answer to it. It's so potent because you have incredible flexibility into either tanking up, if you know you're gonna lose first turn, and then you can also just pedal to the metal, just kill them straight up.
Yeah.
So
I do think
the
S10 is a
fact that
little
you can bring,
scary though, like to draft early.
I think with G.Purg Basar it's fine because you have a lot of ways to steal turns.
That's true, yeah.
Because at the moment G.Purg is Rose Cleave 2.0. You just let the enemy take their turn, especially if they have ML Crow. You let the enemy take their turn. They proc G-Purg because they have to press S3, and then G-Purg just presses S3 and then just runs you over, right? Like,
Yeah, that's
the
definitely
fact that G-Purg not only has like really good utility in the form of his AoE Idol's Cheer, he also has an attack up, like an AoE attack up, plus his damage is like actually good. So
it's kind of
like,
scary
Yeah.
how much damage he does.
so like, this character basically fixes all of Rose's problems. Like, yeah, sometimes I'll just draft G-Purg Rose because G-Purg actually scales pretty well with attack up. So like, it gives you a lot of flexibility, and like it makes it so picking, for example, ML Crow in the beginning, if you pick G-Purg Basar, you can pick like, and they pick ML Crow, you can just pick Opsig, for example, and then Opsig just like it's like almost a force ban because Guiding Light, attack up Opsig has a lot of kill threat on like almost anything in the game.
Hmm. It also makes Berseria really strong if they're forced to ban either Basar or Berseria, because Berseria is really good into Emilcraw as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not resurgence, but like, what's the word? Like, relevance of Berseria now, like how valuable. I think it's unbuffable more than anything, right? Like the unbuffable debuff is super
I
valuable
mean, it's
right
the
now.
strip. It's
Well,
the
the
strip
too,
too.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like,
Doobix, how do you speed tune Opsigrid? Because people run her all over the place, it seems.
you literally just put you basically just do 10 less speed than your G-Purg. If you want to tune it with your G-Purg. I think at the moment it's probably the best way because you have a lot of flexibility in how you pick with it, because you can put it behind FCC, you can put it behind G-Purg, and both of those characters you can kind of hold your they can hold their S3s if they need to. Like, if you get both of them, for example, like if you get G-Purg, FCC, Opsig for whatever reason into that ML Crow, you just hold one of their skills, ideally the FCC, right? Because you want the attack up. You just rip the G-Purg S3, and then you use Opsig S2 to just obliterate a unit, and then you can just S3 right after, right?
I've never
How
thought
fast
about
are
it
you
that
running
way.
your G-Purg then?
I mean, right now I think it's like the 230s.
That's a lot faster.
And you
than mine.
don't get cut?
The reason why I don't get cut is because I put it 10 speed less, and because of the fact that if they have to rip an S3, because if you put Guiding Light on her, she will be out of range, right? Like you have to S3 in order to get to her, but then G-Purg has Idol's Cheer. So
Oh, sorry, I meant outsped. You don't get outsped?
Oh, I mean, it depends. So if I can contest first turn, I'll contest first turn. Usually I try to contest first turn, but if they try to bulk up, I can always adjust accordingly, right?
I
Like
think that's the value
it basically,
of Golden Boys
yeah,
is the ability to adjust.
yeah,
Mhm.
it's really the flexibility of Golden Boys that makes it so powerful, because it can be used in both like slower drafts, it can be used in faster drafts. It's very very flexible, and it has like so much utility, right? Like ML Crow has insane damage mitigation through passive, and also some of the best cleave damage in the game. Like, excuse me.
Yeah, that's why I
Um,
always pre-ban Emilcraw.
on top of immunity, G-Purg has some of the best attack up setup in the game right now. And he also, funny enough, kind of counters ML Crow if you, for example, bring Opsig. And then A Tywin, you know, infinite CC, infinite CC, you know, cleanse on passive, and then also steals your souls, so you can't soul burn anything. So yeah, like the flexibility in those 3 units at the moment just allows you to do so much, and that's why at least one of them will always show up in a draft typically.
Yeah, like I was looking at my drafts earlier today on like just going through my match history, and I think I drafted 2 to 3 Golden Boys in almost like 90% of my matches, or like they were present on either side of the draft in like almost 100% of my draft like matches. It's kind of insane.
Especially since if you don't take them, the other person gets all of them.
Yeah.
And the thing is, they kind of counter each other, right? Like
to a degree, yeah.
Yeah, to a degree. But I saw what Maki said in chat, and yeah, a lot of people are going back to like, at the moment, if someone first picks G.Purg, for example, they will a lot of people will answer with like, for example, like Cerise Flurry. And Cerise Flurry deals with it pretty well because the goal with G.Purg is to just kind of avoid the G.Purg and just avoid proccing G.Purg or just straight up killing him if the opportunity arises. And G.Purg, you can slow down the draft against G.Purg, but you also have to be very careful because if the player who uses G.Purg is experienced, they know how to deal with people who try to slow down the draft. So just have to there are a lot of considerations.
Yeah, I'm of the opinion that I don't think Cerise is actually that good into G-Purg.
I think Cerise is pretty good.
I think a lot of the times though, like you can then like pick around it, right? Like if they pick the Cerise, I think Bazaar is like one of the big answers into Cerise. Bazaar, and then like a lot of the times if you draft like the cleanser, right? Like at that point Cerise is just useless.
I kind of agree. I think most people who play against me now, I pick a lot of H-Fiend, and I think H-Fiend is very strong into Cerise, especially if you have a G-Perk, because you can just cleanse the restrict right after it's applied, and just you basically push up your G-Perk. It's sort of like getting your G-Perk procced when you use H-Fiend S3, and then you just, sort of cleave from there almost.
Yeah, but the issue is that Flurry kind of destroys H.Fiend in that sense.
She does, yeah.
So you have to be very careful with that because if they have I suppose they can also just ban your you can ban the Flurry, but if they start slowing down the draft with like Ravi or A Ravi or MLV, and or like even Blue Crow, it can really ruin you.
Yeah, SSB is also very strong into HFN.
Yeah.
People pick SSB
I mean,
against.
yeah, if they pick ML Crow too, like ML Crow is also incredibly strong into HFN.
Yeah, that's why I've also been pre-banning ML Crow basically every game and trying to sort of like counter the Flurry while being prepared to ban the SSB. Well, it depends on game to game how people draft, but that's usually how my drafts go.
Yeah, I usually pre-ban the Flurry. I just don't want to deal with that unit. But I feel
So
like
I guess you guys aren't pre-banning Tea Time. Am I the only Tea Time banner?
I think Tea Time has been kind of figured out, or they're
same.
Well, yes and no, because I know a lot of people now have slowed down their Tea Times, are slapping like 200 plus effectiveness on her, and like intend to hit your ER units, and most of the time they will if they're that high ER or effectiveness. So there's still that too. Like I know for my Tea Time, I've slowed her down to around the 250 range. Still faster than all the units that I want to go after her, but she has like 210 effectiveness, right? So like the ability to hit on these like ER Liliuses or like even like certain like Rays and Destinas and stuff, like pretty decent chance.
I think when Lullabet comes out, it's kind of tough to pick Tea Time, especially early, because if they just pick CZ and ML Lollybut, like I don't really know what you're gonna do with that.
Yeah, I think all bets are off when she comes out.
I think Ray plus Emma Lolibeth will be a very strong counter to these debuff comps, because either of them alone can pretty much deal with a debuff comp.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of methods to counter debuff right now. Especially with Lolibet coming out. You'll have Lolibet, you'll have CZ, you'll have Destina, you have Ray, and then to a certain extent you have ER Lilius and you have Kitty, right? So I think Tea Time's definitely gonna fall down in priority, but she's going to still be very strong. Like if you
I think
find
it kind of. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, if you find she's still going to be very strong in the opportunities that you're just like, oh, like 4 or 5, like I can just pick Tea Time here and she'll basically be a permaban.
It's similar to SSB, right? SSB is insanely strong when you can pick
Mhm.
her.
And kind of how Basar was last season. Like you could occasionally pick him, right at the very end in kind of that like super tanky, like on Crown, like 220, 240 build or something like that. And he could just run over some teams.
Yeah, I think it's healthy to have units like that, where like you need to make sure your drafts can deal with these units so that you're prepared to ban them, or you're just gonna get like hard countered by one single unit.
I think the pre-ban kind of speaks to different playstyles though, because like I like taking Flurry early. And so for me, the meta that Tea Time sets up is really disadvantageous to that, because even though Flurry can typically outspeed Tea Time and just S3 her, having her open oftentimes puts me in a situation where I have to deal with like Tea Time and Basar, and then I also have to deal with RB and other like cleave type units, and like I just don't have enough picks for that, because Flurry is kind of a soft unit into RB. He can just run you over if you're doing a Flurry draft.
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
Double gap.
I think Flurry is also. She's really strong, right? But like, it feels really bad when she doesn't hit anything on the first turn. Like, really bad. So like, I don't want to say she's inconsistent, but like, that 15%, she feels kind of like Rin, right? Like when Rin gets 15%ed, like Rin then just kind of sits there, and I feel like Flurry kind of does the same thing now. Whereas
Flurry has 3 15% she can proc. One of the 15% just completely negate the other 2, right? But the fact that you're rolling it 3 times means that, and if you especially want all 3 to land, right? The chance is not actually that high. It's not.
It's like 64% chance or something to get the strip, provoke, and defense break.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like people usually wouldn't run, let's say, 64% crit on their Emalulukas and expect to counter RB, but people still run Flurry. So
the thing with Flurry though is like you don't need to get all 3 most of the time. Like if you get the provoke, that's oftentimes enough to stop a unit from doing whatever.
Or if you get the defense break, you can just insta kill a unit.
You can just kill the unit, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not quite that inconsistent. That said, if you get 15% and you get nothing, like you usually lose, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think it's mostly because the way a lot of people, you kind of have to draft Flurry in the sense that you're banking on strip defense break, for example, or like you usually play around the fact that it has to strip, otherwise, kind of puts you in a weird spot.
Yeah, like if you pick her as a HE counter, like people do against me sometimes, and if they missed on HE, you're pretty much just screwed.
All right. Next thing I wanted to talk about is actually a specific unit build, and we kind of touched on it earlier, and I see a lot of people still like live and die by this unit, but I personally think ER Lilius is trash. And
I think it's very comp dependent.
I feel like it's just too hard to get enough effect resistance on an ER Lilius to like matter. What do you guys think?
How much is enough?
Well, like it depends on who you're trying to counter, I guess, but like most of the times I see it drafted into like the Tea Times, right? And like Tea Time now with 200 plus effectiveness, you're never gonna have enough ER and ER Lilius to matter, right?
It's also gear dependent though, right? Some people might have absolutely insane FRS gear to the point where they can run a very high FRS Amalilius. If you have less FRS gear, you might want to run something like Ray that has very high base ER and can also rely on Shimadra for even more. I think you basically build the unit that fits your comp as well as that fits the kind of gear you have, basically.
I feel like ER Lilius is better against Flurry than she is against Tea Time. Because so many Tea Times are running high effectiveness now.
Yeah, I can see ER Lilius, I guess, being pretty decent against ML Tywin too.
Yeah.
But I feel like most ML Tywins now have kind of just dropped effectiveness, right? Like
Yeah,
it's all about damage. And that's just kind of how like this RTA season has like evolved into, is everything is like damage, taking the first turn, or like maybe not taking the first turn, but your opponent takes the first turn, which then like again G.Purg catapults your team into the taking the quote unquote first turn. So it doesn't really feel like you're getting outsped. It just feels like they're helping enable your comp better.
Yeah,
Yeah, I run into ER Lilius a fair bit, and I can't really think of a time that I've banned her. Like, I just let her through. And even with Flurry, I usually just still win anyways. Like, I feel like she just doesn't do enough.
She's okay into Berseria as well, I guess. Because Berserias generally do not run high effectiveness, I would say.
Most of them don't. No, I think most Bracerias go for damage. I think she can be very strong into Braceria as well as Bazaar, but against these units like F10E, I think someone like Ray is just a lot better.
I think G.Purg makes it much more difficult as well to run it into Bazaar, because it's the same problem as Hufine, where if you run it into G.Purg Bazaar, what ends up happening is you just proc G.Purg passive, and then G.Purg just takes the turn. And then you're just like, well, I guess nothing happened here.
I guess I died.
Basically, yeah.
Not to mention, if like the Soulburn Bazaar wins the 50-50, she's getting pushed back anyways. And at that point, you're probably losing.
Unless, yeah, it's definitely a gamble.
Unless they're on Steadfast, I guess. But even then, like Steadfast like doesn't push you up enough. Like the pushback still takes effect over like what Steadfast is. Because Steadfast is what, 15% at max limit break?
Isn't it less? I'm not sure.
I don't actually know.
Yeah, I feel like the push up is not that much from it.
I think it's 8%. I'm not sure though.
8%? Oh, that's And Bazaar's pushback is what, 30%?
I could be wrong.
Yeah, that's you're at a net loss there.
I mean, yeah.
I do feel like this season is a lot about taking calculated risks, or just, like RNG in general, but like trying to mitigate it as much as possible, like relying on certain RNG interactions to go your way, and if it doesn't go your way, well, you're kind of at a disadvantage. But you do need to sort of rely, basically, gab gaming and all that. But I do think like stacking as much as RNG as possible on your team that has the chance to swing the game in your favor can often be very strong, whether it's CC or whether it's counters or stuff like that. Basically, like drafting in a way that if RNG goes your way, you're in a very strong chance to win the game.
Yeah, and that's kind of like, so I remember I kind of talked about this when I was in Car's stream and he was looking at my account, but like that draft that you did with like early on with G.Purg and FCC to combat the F10E, right? I think that's a pretty good example of like there's so many different things that they have to worry about going wrong, whereas like they like banning one option isn't always enough, right? Like banning out the, let's say the G.Purg, right? They still have that 50-50 with the FCC and the 50-50 with the Hufine, right?
Right. Yeah, that's
Hufine. They're still CR boosting your team, and they're still like the FCC. Like, there's just so many things.
Yeah, I totally agree.
There's so many like RNG factors. Like, obviously, right? You could still get like Omega fucked, and that's just the way it is. But the chances of you getting Omega fucked are pretty low.
Yeah, that's how I drafted a lot with Hufine. Like a picker against F10E and stuff. If I have FCC, for example, to sort of have a bigger chance to dodge, but I don't rely entirely on HG only countering the draft. I put more elements such as Ray and G.Purg and A-Tywin into my draft to the point where they kind of have to pass all of these resistance and miss checks to be able to beat me, but there's so many different ones that it's very hard to, get through them all.
How do you guys feel about the double debuff comps?
I drafted a lot, like Berseria plus Bassar. Is that what you're talking about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I drafted a lot personally. I think it's very strong.
I've been moving the priority down a bit because when they pick CZ Destina, I have a hard time sometimes.
I feel like it oftentimes puts you in a spot where you don't have enough damage.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I feel like it's very easy to just tank up against debuff comps, and you survive a few rounds of debuffs, and then you kind of just run them over.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you have the ML Tywin, right? Like ML Tywin will eventually just clear off those debuffs.
Yeah. I think the biggest problem is the fact that a lot of these debuff comps don't have defense break built into them, which makes it very easy to just kind of tank up and then just get through it and then just kill them, right? Because without defense break, you typically lack the damage in order to get through.
That's
and
hold on.
In terms of defense break, in terms of AoE defense break, there aren't a whole lot of units who do it.
Flan debut.
Yeah, I mean, there's Flan, there's Blue Tywin, there's Serato, like CZ, and Blue Luluka, yeah. Bologna.
That's
all these top tier units.
ML Ken.
True, ML Ken, yeah. Is it time for the 200 speed ML Kens?
Nevlin special.
But yeah, like at the moment there aren't a whole lot of high tier AoE defense breakers. Oh yeah, Fire Tenny as well. So it just ends up being a little difficult to kill people without defense break.
When I draft it though, I guess my damage comes from like ML Crow plus ML.
Oh, that's because ML Crow ignores defense. So
yeah, but like I think that's a pretty
even. Oh, go ahead.
Like when I'm drafting this, like I'm usually picking like ML Crow, ML Crow, and then Bassar, right? And then if they take like the G.Purg and if they have like FCC, right, then I'm taking Berseria and then I'm taking ML Tywin usually. And then it slots in a really nice RB last pick because I'm holding 2 unbuffables if they do decide to go for the like the ML haste, right? And then I'm also able to like just ban the G.Purg. I'm able to either get off the unbuffable from Berseria because I run a faster Berseria and the strip, and then if they let Bassar through, I just sold from Bassar. And then I have some pretty high value skill 3s that generally deal enough damage to the point where like it may not kill them or it may kill one unit, right? But I've crippled them to the point where like it's unrecoverable, which is why I think that specific draft with like the double debuffs is so strong.
Yeah, I think if they have no answers to the double debuff, it's pretty tough. But I do think that if you start playing a little more defensively with CZ, because I think the nice part about CZ is the fact that if you can't kill CZ off the bat, he can kind of just solo that with lifesteal set. Just because everyone kind of procs a debuff on their S1 and S3. If you ban, like for example, the ML Crow, they don't have immunity to stop the debuff reflection, and then you can potentially just die to the CZ.
I also think that's risky though, because they could also just die to Gab.
I suppose, yeah.
Which is why the RB is like, I don't care how tanky your CZ is. If you Gab twice on RB, he's probably gonna die without defense buff.
Yeah.
Which is why I think take that 40% chance to win, baby.
Yeah, CZ Yeah, CZ isn't the best way to deal with it, but I think mid CZ, if you see both Basar and Basaria, isn't a bad pick. Especially if you have like a well built one.
Yeah,
But
that's true. There's some pretty like bulky CZ. I've seen a lot of counter
uh-huh.
set CZs too.
Yeah, I think that's kind of freaky, but
Counter
teach
just
their
seems
own.
like a waste.
Yeah, I agree. I also think it can sometimes be very easy to just ignore the CC. Like, I've had comps where I run like ML Taiwan, G.Purg, Brasseria, and I still don't ban the Serato, and I still just try and like ignore him until last pick. And even if I have debuff S1s like A Taiwan and G.Purg, eventually he won't lifesteal enough, and I'll be able to whittle him down.
That's true.
Because the damage he deals towards like the G-Purg, right? Like the thing that makes them so like scary in my opinion is how tanky they are for how much damage that they do. Like G-Purg can be pretty damn bulky, and like ML Taiwan is usually built with some decent bulk. Same with like ML Crow, right? And they just deal so much damage. It's kind of gross.
Yeah. And that's yeah, I mean, going back to Golden Boys, right?
Yeah.
The reason why Golden Boys are so strong is because utility plus damage. What could possibly go wrong with that, right? Because usually you have to trade one for the other, but Golden Boys is just like, why not both?
Yeah. And make them hard to kill at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, like they aren't 8K characters. They're like 20K 20K like 1.2K defense characters. So like
Even the tankier
they
like ML Taiwan's
take a
hurt.
hit or two.
Like,
Yeah.
I was doing some damage calcs, and even if you don't run like a lot of crit damage, if you're just like high HP, your damage isn't that low if you have the crit chance, right? Like, you still do a good chunk of damage. Like going back to what I was saying about like early Stenny picks too, right? Like, that's why I think drafting Stenny early is kind of scary because like there's just so much AoE threat right now that kind of just kills her. No matter how much defense you have, right? Like most of it is just true damage, and or just like a strip into like a ML Taiwan skill 3 that stuns her, right? If you start chaining those stuns, she really just doesn't do much. Why not draft I don't think Politis is that good of an answer, personally.
I think Politis is only good into standard cleave because the issue with Politis is that while Politis cuts CR drastically with her passive, the inherent issue with her is that she doesn't really provide that much in her kit, and her multipliers aren't too great. So then what ends up happening is if you pick her into, for example, G.Purg just runs the rest of the team over. Like, she doesn't really do anything. Like, the reason why G.Purg is so strong is the fact that and like you can just draft in a way against Politis where sure Politis gets through, but then how does Politis proc her S2? Because her S2 is incredibly important in order to get rid of any immunity buffs initially. And if you can't get rid of the immunity and you don't have another skill with that, her S3 is kind of just a sandbag skill. Like, it's not going to do damage. You're not going to hit any unbuffables. You're not going to hit any miss debuffs. She presses S3. Congratulations. Like, there's nothing you can do. She is really good into standard cleave though, right? Granted, Alot's CDOM can potentially sniper, but at the same time, you can also just draft other counters with her and really stop like an Alot's cleave. And she also just completely destroys Flitica because Flitica not only boosts like 10% with S2, she only gets 50% CR back with it. So she can't even S3 right afterwards.
Yeah, I think against standard cleave, it's very strong to pick her together with Celine. That's what I usually do. So, because
Yeah.
usually either her or Celine can kind of like hard counter the comp, and they can only ban one of them.
I mean, you pick Politis, you pick ML Ball, and you pick Celine. Like, what are they gonna do?
You can
Yeah,
even pick the
so-
Cerise, right? If they have the Alots, like
Yeah, I mean, you can also pick Cerise because she has insanely high base speed. There's a lot of ways to deal with standard cleave at the moment, and she is just another answer to standard cleave, which was kind of unnecessary, but
Yeah,
that's
standard
a
cleave
completely
seems kind
different
of dead
topic.
in the water.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have a podcast for this one, but I just looked at politics and I was like, but why? Like, but why? Like, I just want to
Yeah,
play
we were like
Critica
deep into
Alots, but
debuff
why?
meta.
Here, I can read your FAQ real quick. It's a very quick one on Politis.
I wanted to be a fly on the wall for that like Smilegate roundtable. They're like, all right, debuffs are everywhere. How do we kill Alots?
Yeah. Politis. Fuck this unit. All my homies hate this unit. Very nice.
I do actually find myself picking Politis sometimes against comps with Flurry and Emalulka, because it usually forces the Flurry to go into the Politis. Otherwise, they're just gonna get countered and CC'd and everything. So you can kind of like tailor your team to like counter the rest of their team. Like if you have Politis to deal with the Flurry and the Malulika, but obviously it depends on the draft and everything. But I do think she's pickable into more than just standard cleave sometimes.
I think her greatest strength is into standard cleave. I think you can get creative with her for sure, but overall, I don't think she's that universal of a unit compared to other units.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. It's just nice to have her pickable in certain situations.
Mort buff when? I don't know about that one. I actually think Mort's not that bad.
They should have just released him like 6 months earlier.
I think Mort isn't bad either. I just think that Mort just lacks a little bit to be good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like his artifact should have just been baked into his passive. There was no reason to.
I don't even know what his artifact does. I'll be honest.
It's like if you use a non-attack skill or something, you get like a crit damage buff.
Oh.
But like it like the only knight that can really proc it is him on his S2. So like it's not even a good artifact. It's just like they took something out of his kit.
Yeah.
And then slapped it in the artifact.
Hey, you get crit chance though.
Some people were trying to put it on Lelius, but just why?
I mean, you could proc it crit damage Lilius S2 and then S3. I don't know.
Yeah.
The plays. Is anyone using Spez in Legend? I actually do see Spez sometimes. I think
Elfmage uses him.
Elfmage uses Spez a lot.
He does, yeah.
I personally think that Spez is pretty troll right now, cause he just doesn't really do enough. But he is a really fun unit to watch. When he pops off, he is great. I love watching Spez when he pops off. But like, I don't know. I just feel like he just doesn't really do anything.
Like it's hard on the ML crowd too, in my opinion, with ML crowd being so relevant.
Yeah, like I think the problem with Spez is that if they have immunity, it's just doomed. Like the way you have to build Spez versus like what they can bring into it, like there's just not enough oomph to him.
He's also a thief, right? So like I know a lot of people build him tanky, but no thief is going to be tanky enough to survive enough, right?
I mean, well, you can. The nice part is you can build MLDB on. You can put MLDB on him, so like he can just RNG you, which is always nice. But yeah, I don't know. Like
he's just a very RNG reliant unit. You need a lot of things to go in your favor for him to actually work, and if they don't, you kind of just auto lose because you're relying on Spez to actually kill things as your win condition.
Yeah.
I do think he's not bad into like the degen RBs. I will say, because he can just kind of skill 3 a degen RB no matter like at what point. Not degens RBs, sorry, like Gab RBs, right? Like he can kind of just skill 3 into that and be fine because he's probably gonna kill regardless of his damage stats.
Yeah. I mean, he probably needs attack up, but yeah.
On like an 8k HP, like 800 defense RB, you're probably killing.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I think it really depends on your stats. Like, if you're really bulky, I think you might just be out of range. Like, just slightly out of range. Especially if they bring, like, an Aureus. But...
Didn't Code have, like, a ridiculous bruiser spez?
Did he? I haven't seen Code play.
I faced a 20k HP spez. I don't know if it was Elven Mage or
That's
someone
Elven
else,
Mage.
but yeah. It runs 28k HP.
Yeah.
Spez.
I think the problem, the biggest problem with Spez is that you just cripple the rest of his team. Like, he can't 1v4 your team, and like the problem is that, like, the way you build him, you kind of need him to 1v4, but unfortunately he can't. He also just kind of eats shit and die against, like, for example, Berseria, right? Like, you just you get attacked down, you get unbuffable. Like, what do you do with your life? Might as well just die, I guess.
Basically.
I think I figured out the solution to G.Purg, actually.
Lucy.
Thoughts?
Lucy, huh?
Might as well pick Ricorous instead. Pick Ricorous instead, right?
Yeah, but Ricorous isn't a cute girl.
Okay, but Ricorous is a hot guy, which I'd much rather have, in all honesty.
I see.
Or you just pick both.
True. All right.
First pick Ricorous Lucy.
Where's Rudy? Where's Scar?
Yeah.
Ricorous is the way.
Ricorous is the
restricts
answer.
on Seal 3, actually.
Oh yeah, they just buffed
it. Was,
like,
yeah, it was buffed.
It's just, I think the issue is that, unfortunately, it kind of sucks.
Yeah.
But
what else does Lucy do? She's restrict and slow, right? So she's just a 100. She's a 100 base speed series.
Yeah, I don't understand why they created Lucy.
She's a 3-star, right? It's kind of an option for people who don't have series or just, newer players in general.
Maybe some PvE encounter where you need restrict.
Yeah, I think she's quite solid in the new hunt, actually, because you kind of want to restrict the boss if possible, because he gets a lot of CR push from dual attacks.
Wait, I've never even touched the new hunt.
I did, because I had to reforge my insane helm that I got from the whale shop.
Yeah, and they haven't added it to added it to expeditions.
So I've been doing it for a bit. I just run like a YOLO team though that fails half the time, but it's like a fast team at least.
Yo, Vinny brings up a good point. If you're a beginner that just rolls 30 speed on every piece, Lucy's a pretty good alternative to Ceres.
True. Not false.
It's nice to have an option for those people.
Yeah. Could just build like Flurry or anyone else, but Lucy.
Yeah.
What else? I guess, do you guys want to make a tier list?
You can make a tier list. I'll just say Golden Boys, and then anything that supports the Golden Boys.
I need to find a tier list.
We can, yeah. I think it's more of a reflection of like what's currently popular in the meta rather than what you should draft in what order, which is I think how people interpret tier lists.
Yeah, I think we should do. If anything, it's just a web, right? Like you make one of those like I forget what they're called, like where you like have like the main thought in the middle, and then like everything just kind of branches out from that. You know what I'm talking about?
Right. Yeah.
So who goes in the middle? Is it?
It's the Golden Boys, right?
Yeah.
G.Purgis Tywin.
G.Purgis Tywin ML Crown.
Oh wait, how do
I? I think. I don't know what like they can do about G.Purg other than just release more specific counters to passives, like just make more seal characters. I do think they can expand on seal. Yeah, more restrict, more seal. Because at the moment there's only one seal character.
And the problem with Amerk is that the problem with her is she's not consistent, and if you don't seal the G-Purg and then you keep proccing your S2, you're actually just feeding the enemy team a bunch of CR.
I mean, same with ML Crow, right? Like you're literally
Yeah.
just griefing yourself at that
Basically.
point.
I think like Kenny was doing viewer battles yesterday, and somebody brought Amurk against him and failed to seal with her 4 times in a row.
I was watching
Yeah.
that actually.
I mean, sometimes you just get unlucky like that, but like
Yeah, but I mean, it was
does
pretty
feel
funny.
really
It was
bad.
like this unit is like literally doing nothing.
It was Tetsu. I remember that actually.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, it was
He
Tetsu.
failed to seal like 4 times. He got resisted all 4 times. It was so funny. I'm pretty sure he soul burned one of the times too.
He did. Yeah.
It's rough.
Yeah.
Yeah, the problem is his Soulburn doesn't ignore efforts, so it's just you can still
Yeah.
I'm kind of glad
That
though.
seems kind of silly. Like, if you're gonna soul burn, you should get the seal. Like, just make it ignore Efres.
I agree.
How do I add this new tier
I
list?
do think we need like a unit that has a stronger single target kit with seal, so that you can like guarantee maybe like a strip into seal, sort of like a Flurry kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that'd be insane.
How about a unit that just seals the enemy team at the start of the battle?
Yeah, just a passive and
Yeah.
trips
just
immunity
trips
and seals.
immunity.
Just build her like Rowana, you know, like base speed, uber thick.
Yeah.
What the heck?
It's tough right now. It's definitely tough because I think, yeah, at the moment passives are just kind of the meta. And unfortunately, they only have one seal character. That's an ML5. So
But she'll be in the coin shop.
Yes, for all the free to play players.
That's true.
For all the free to play players.
Yeah,
with
for all
their, whale coins.
Yeah.
Hey, if I pull one more dupe, I can buy her, but I don't know if I will. I kind of want. I'm missing a lot of ML5s since I'm kind of free to play, so I'm missing like ML Crow, ML Haze, Rylot, all of that. I think I'd rather buy one of those when they eventually.
I think they're going to be more impactful than Marrow.
Yeah.
yeah,
All right.
but I think if you play slow, I think Meru is actually pretty good.
She
Yeah.
can
If
be.
you
Yeah.
if you can like make her thick, if you can make her thick enough with violin, she's actually so frustrating to play against.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like
I
she-
know. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say like, it feels like she actually just has like innate like 50% counter proc chance because I actually
yeah.
every time I hit her, counter,
Counterattack.
For
counterattack,
sure, yeah.
Counterattack.
counter, and I'm
She
like,
actually
Uh-huh.
"Ah,
counters
well,
so much.
I can't do anything with this one.
I know Other likes to draft a lot of Amurk. Whenever I face him, he always drafts Amurk against me.
Other is just a tank master.
He is, yeah.
I'm a Gap gamer. I can never beat Other because he's just so tanky.
Yeah, it's pretty tough.
All right. So obviously S tier or S plus tier, we're gonna put Golden Boys, right? Do we consider all 3 Golden Boys to be at that S plus rank?
I
don't
would.
think so.
I think Alencia and Fire CC also deserve to be S plus
I mean, if we're gonna put S plus, I mean, I'd put Rose as well.
Wait a second.
But you know,
yeah, let's put HF in there as well.
Unbiased. Unbiased.
100% unbiased tier list right here. Might as well just put all the characters in S plus. I
Yeah,
think.
S plus,
Yeah.
honestly.
They're all great.
Like, what other units do you think actually does belong in this tier, though?
I would
I
say
think
FCC.
Tenny goes up there, and RB.
I think Spec Tenny. I don't think RB goes into S plus right now. I think a lot of people have ways to deal with RB. And though granted, RB is still a really good 4-5 pick in the sense that if the team isn't set up for RB, you pick RB, he can just run over your team.
I guess maybe we should define like what the tiers mean then.
I think S plus is how early can you pick them,
Yeah.
Okay.
and how flexible are they?
Sure.
Because I think there's a lot of really good characters that you can put that if you pick 4 or 5, they completely dominate, and you have to ban.
I was
but-
looking at S and like S plus more as units that define the meta and create the meta that everything else plays around.
But how do you define a meta in Epic 7? Like, I would personally, my opinion of a meta in E7 is, what are you just picking 1-2 because you don't know what else to pick because you don't know what they have, right? So you just pick right off the bat and go from there.
And I think if we're
I
talking
agree.
that way, I think Bazaar is definitely an S plus unit then. In my opinion,
Yeah.
I think Bazaar
I
is.
think-
one
I
of
think
the most
Bazaar is there, yeah.
early pickable unit. You can first pick Bazaar again and probably be fine.
I would put if we're gonna list, I think, yeah, as Abduk said, I would probably put S10 maybe like at the very bottom of S plus, but she like lives between S and S plus, I think. because she's really good if you can get. She's like one of the best like third picks you can do, if not the best third pick. I think picking her, you can't pick her one, obviously.
No. Well, some people
You
pick
just
her
get
one
run
and then they
over.
lose.
Yeah, you get run over. Because the biggest problem with Stenny is the fact that at the moment you can you can just pick ML Crow, G.Purg, and actually just kill her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's like it's really limiting in that sense.
What do you guys think
You
about
need your early
FCC?
picks to have a way to protect Destiny, basically. I think FCC is actually... I would put her S+, but some people might disagree.
I think she's S for me personally.
I think she's very high S. I think she's on the same level as Stenny in the sense that she is very impactful and she forces you to draft a different way. But I also think because right now you can pick Basar to kind of deter her a bit. And even if you pick a Tywin, like removing the unbuffable helps, but you've already lost the shield. And the shield is kind of the important part to her.
Yeah, because like if people first pick FCC versus me, I'm insta-locking ML Crow and I'm insta-locking Basar. Right?
Does anybody ever first pick General Purgis? He seems more S than S plus
do.
to me.
I see first pick General Purgis a lot now.
Yeah,
Same.
I think a lot of the time, for me personally at least, G.Purg just gives me so much flexibility that even if they pick, for example, FCC or like ML Crow or A Tywin, like I can just flex around with it. Whereas with ML Crow, A Tywin, it feels like it's slightly harder to flex your draft.
When I
Like-
say first pick, I mean you're going first. You get one.
Yeah,
pick.
like
Yeah,
literally
yeah,
triple
yeah,
take
yeah.
G.Purg. Because I see him taken a lot when someone's going second and they get 2 picks.
I think the priority on G.Purg has skyrocketed the past like week, right? Just within the
I
last
think
week.
it also depends on who you play against, because sometimes
Yeah.
you just have to take the G-Perk and call it a day. Because G-Perk compared to for example ML Crow is like an offensive FCC in the sense that as soon as you AoE you get the shield, right? G-Perk, if you AoE, he just is Rose 2.0. He just gives his entire team the turn and then just runs you over. Like no other
Basically.
character does that.
It's very hard to draft into a G.Purg if you're like a person who plays a lot of AoE units. You have to kind of like change your entire draft up sometimes.
All right.
Yeah.
Where do you guys put Sage Ball? I'm in the S tier. I don't think he's quite S plus.
I think he's low S because right
Yeah,
now
I
I think
agree.
Golden Boys counter him really hard. Like Golden Boys plus, like if you see them pick if you see them pick ML Ball, you have a Tywin to counter, you have FCC as a pseudo counter. Honestly, you can just kind of steal the turn with Basar against him because he has a net negative from his S2. I think it's what 20%,
Yeah.
and Basar is 30%, so you lose 10% CR there. So I think there are, and like even though he has 1v3 potential, he just keeps sleeping and just keep S3ing. He doesn't control the draft same way the other 3 do.
He's also
Or I guess the other 4 do.
He's also not consistent in my opinion, which is why like I can't put him as like I see so many times where like Sage Ball will rip his S2 and miss literally everything. And then you just, like even if they're unbuffed.
He is 85%. So it's like a shitty A Tywin S3.
Yeah.
In that sense.
The problem too is like as soon as you do rip that S2 and if it does miss, like he loses that big factor of gaining 20% CR every time.
Yeah, I do think ML Ball requires you to have some brain cells, whereas the other characters require you to have literally, like, you can just be brain dead. You can be brain dead, and then you just rip 4 S3s and call it a day, right?
Yeah.
Whereas, yeah, ML Ball requires you to like think a little bit about like, should I rip the S2 here? Should I save the S2 in order to CR boost myself in order to S3? Granted, he is still pretty oppressive, but he is not nearly as oppressive and easy to play as the other ones.
I agree. I think it's in the same ballpark as units like SSB and F10E, where he doesn't really control the draft, but in drafts that he works, he's very powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like Omega Strong versus Cleave.
Yep.
Another.
I mean, him plus Politis, like light. Cat can't do anything about that, right? Like, it's actually doomed.
Yeah.
That's why he started trying to pick ML Ball and Politis, because there's literally nothing else he can do about it other than just pick it, lol. Because for Cleave especially, there is like standard Cleave, there is no answer to ML Ball for you. No one can like the closest thing to a quote unquote counter would be like Coeric, because you can reset him, but like even then,
Coeric Omega lol.
Coeric Omega lol. But yeah, I think right now he's very oppressive into one subset, but he is not oppressive to the meta.
Alright, where would you guys slot a unit like Berseria then?
I would probably put Berseria in high A, because I think Berseria gives you a lot of maneuverability, especially dealing with a character like Landy. But I think she does have some very obvious weaknesses that people can punish. Most notably the lack of damage, along with the fact that her debuffs while being strong are still inherently debuffs. So if you pick too much debuff, they can just pick counter debuff and then really fuck you up, right? So like
This is the one that I kind of disagree with. I still think that she's an S tier unit personally.
I think she's high A, low S. I think
I agree, yeah.
I think I pick her a lot nowadays. I actually pick her more than RB most of the time, because I think RB is just, there's too many people are ready for RB. Not enough people are ready for Berseria.
I think in terms of like draftability, I think that she's still an S tier then, right? Like if we're talking about like
yeah, I suppose,
because like how frequently I draft Berseria all the time. I know Rikazo drafts her quite a bit. You draft her quite a bit. I don't know, Mace, do you draft Berseria at all?
I do, yeah.
I think she slots into a lot of drafts really well, which is why
I think she got a lot better when Landy got buffed.
Yeah,
because there's just not that many answers to Landy, and Berseria is one of them.
Or Guiding Light in general, right? Like
Guiding Light. Such a garbage artifact.
I also find myself for a while for now, but if we want to come back to that, we can.
I think thinking about it a bit more, I think I would keep her in S, because her draftability is pretty, like, you can draft her relatively high in the during draft. Like you can draft her like around 3 compared to a lot of other units where they're kind of stuck in 4 or 5.
Yeah. I agree. And
that is really good, because I think 1-2 really defines your flexibility, right? Like if you pick, because the biggest problem with standard cleave, for example, is that you have to pick, you basically picked your 2 boosters and then you had to pick your DPS, because you needed DPS flexibility, otherwise you just get either tanked out or killed, or just like you just wouldn't be able to do anything, right? But because of all these new characters that counter your boosters, you have no flexibility, because you have to pick DPS and then you have to pick your boosters. But then if you have to pick your DPS, they can respond to your DPS much easier than responding to your boosters.
I also think there's like not a lot of counterplay outside of like either a cleanser or maybe Bassar is a pretty good counter to her, but like overall, like she's a pretty strong unit that like, especially like going back to Guiding Light, right? Like if you're running Guiding Light Berseria, it's kind of hard to like deal with her early on, and if she gets that skill 3 off, a lot of the times like that's all she needs to do is get that skill 3 off, Then
Yeah,
it sets up the rest
but
of your draft.
I do think Destina really ruins her.
Yeah, I also agree with
Because
that. Destina's pretty.
Destina actually just like full heals the entire team on top of giving you that CR push, and because Berseria is so squishy, she just kind of dies instantly.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I
Not much
also
you
agree
can
with
do.
that. Weaken the Destina.
I think also Ray is very strong into like Berseria A Tywin, because the thing with Berseria is she synergizes with a lot of the strong meta picks like A Tywin, and then having a unit like Ray or Destina who can sort of like counter both of them at the same time is very powerful.
Yeah, it forces a ban, right? Like they're forced to then ban that unit, which then you could pick other units to deal with, right? Like
Mhm.
if you lock in like Bassar and then they have Ray, right?
Oh, I just looked at chat, and for Laventon's question, it's the reason why G.Purg. So what ended up happening was a few patches ago they added HP scaling to G.Purg's S1 and S3. And what ended up happening was a lot of people didn't really pick G.Purg at the time because a lot of people were also spamming T times Cerise. And T times Cerise are just natural counters to those, to G.Purg. G.Purg kind of suffers into debuffs. Like if you can control G.Purg and you can control his team, like G.Purg doesn't really do much. But because less people are picking those, on top of the fact that everyone just once one person figures this out and tells other people, everyone just like will jump on the bandwagon, try it out for themselves, and if it fits their draft, they continue with that character. And it turns out G.Purg fits into almost everyone's draft. So
Yeah,
I think like
so
with
here
G.Purg
we are
also,
now.
he like with frenzy changes, people are really motivated to blow all their S3s in the beginning of the fight and end it. Many of those are AoE, so that favors G.Purg. And then also Guiding Light hides all of these really strong units behind stealth, which also really incentivizes AoE to answer those. So that helps
Mhm.
G.Purg as well.
Yep.
and he does enough damage usually to break through like smaller shields too, right? Like even if they
Mhm.
have like let's say a Rise of Monarch shield, like a skill 3 from G-Perk usually will do enough damage to break them out of stealth.
Yep.
Units like F10 Cerise, where would you guys put those?
I would put both of them in S. I
S, I
would
think.
put Tea Time higher in S and Cerise slightly lower in S. Whereas, because I think Tea Time, in situations where you pick Tea Time, when you get the highs of Tea Time, she just obliterates you.
Yeah,
Like
Mhm.
she actually just 1v4s your team. Uh, and in situations where you get the lows of Tea Time, it feels pretty bad.
i.e. whenever Doobix fights me.
It actually feels so bad.
Dude,
You can't
you
really
have
do much about
literally the worst tea time luck whenever you queue versus me.
that. Like
It's abysmal. I wish you guys were there that day.
there's not much you can do about that one.
Miss every debuff like 5 games
Yeah,
in a
but
row.
in Cerise's case, because G.Purg is so strong right now, and the fact that she is still a decent pick into G.Purg because she has a lot of control on top of the fact that if you have Confifi, Confifi just allows you to defense break and just essentially be a Raz, right?
Yeah,
Like you just make her into a Raz, which is
Mhm.
actually super
a
nice.
300 speed Ross.
Yeah.
With no
Um
cooldown.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, the cooldown is her
her skill.
S3.
Yeah,
Like
Yeah.
once her S3 is up, then you have to wait one turn.
I also think her skill 2 is like super valuable. A Soulborn skill 2
Oh yeah, 100%.
is
Unbuffable plus stun is a very nice combo.
plus potential defense break.
Yeah, plus potential defense break.
Very cool.
I think her priority drops if you don't have uh the alpha artifact, because
Yeah,
without the defense, like Song of Stars will help increase damage there still, but it's not nearly as strong as a defense break.
I forgot about Song of Stars. Honestly, I haven't. To be honest, though, I've never seen a Song of Stars. On
I see it on Flitica sometimes.
yeah, I do see it on Flitica. I see more Guiding Light Fliticas, although I rarely see Flitica drafted.
Yeah.
So Where would you guys put like a unit like units like the Flurry Aros, kind of like last season's cream of the crop?
I mean,
first
I
picks?
think they're still. This is why I hate tier lists. I still think they're S.
Yeah.
Like they
I
are
agree.
still very pickable. Like they are like those two characters are the only two. Well, one, they're the only 3 stars that are like actually really good, but
I would
they
say
are
Doris is
also
good too.
they are also really really good at breaking through people.
Mm-hmm.
There are very few characters that are strong single target, and those two happen to be some of the strongest single target
Would
because
you put them higher or lower in the
They're-
S tier?
This is the problem with tier lists. Like,
Yeah.
they're in that same tier, but they're a different draft style. So it's
Yeah,
hard to like
exactly.
rate them higher or lower than those other units.
That's
They'll
fair.
be better for some people and worse for some
Yeah,
people. It just
exactly.
depends on the style you draft.
If I were to honestly, I think if I did a tier list, I would put picks in their respective slots during draft. So where I can pick them 1, 2, where I can pick them 3, 4, where I can pick them 4, 5, etc. Right? Because I think the way E7 you play E7, 80% of your win like 100% of your win conditions come from draft essentially. But like 80% of the game is played in draft. And it's all about how flexible you can be in your first 3 picks and then how hard you can deny their team in the last 2 picks. Because realistically your draft should be already set by the time you see their 4 units. So you can always ban their last unit.
So if we kind of change the format to this, would you move Flurry up then to S plus for pick 1, 2? Because I still think Flurry is a very strong pick.
I
one.
first pick her almost every game.
I think Flurry, from certain like some people I talk to, they have moved their Flurry priority down. Some have kept their Flurry priority. I think for us, I know Mace still picks it pretty early. So, and I know like Kenny still picks it pretty early.
Aether Bolt,
So
I know still first picks Flurry.
yeah, like
It comes down to draft style a bit, and like
I think yeah.
there's a caveat too that I don't do it against certain players.
Mm-hmm.
That's true as well. If you want to take away, like, let's say their G.Purgis or their Emo Crow.
Exactly.
I might move Flurry. I think I'm gonna move Flurry up because I do see still a good majority
I think
of people.
Flurry is a very good 1-2 pick. I think Raz is more of a 3-4 pick.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I think G.Purgis is still 1-2.
Oh, I 100% think G.Purgis
yeah.
is 1, 2.
So here's the thing with Cerise though, don't you? When people pick her, isn't it usually first?
Actually, I think you can push down Cerise priority because not a whole lot of people will pick G.Purg and Cerise.
Yeah.
But you can. Cerise is like one of those characters that you can kind of pick 1 through 4. It's kind of like
Yeah.
old ML haste where honestly you could just kind of hold on to the ML haste, wait until the end if there's higher priority picks that you need, and then just pick the ML haste, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you for example, as someone in chat said, you pre-ban S10, you first pick Flurry, and like you're in a much better spot with the Flurry pick. Like it's really dependent on your pre-ban as well, but I think we'll just give it the benefit of the doubt that you do the optimal pre-ban for that unit. Where can you just slot that unit? And I think Flurry you can slot in 1-2 pretty easily.
Yeah, I agree. Units like DN, the Soul Weavers, right? Like the high ER Soul Weavers. Would you consider those like pick 5s, or would you consider them counter picks?
I would pick them 4-5. I think, at least personally. I don't pick them, so I don't have the best opinion to go off of because
DN's different than the other ones.
I think DN is her own play style too.
I think most Soul Weavers you pick 4-5.
Yeah, I agree.
Like Destina, Ray, back when people picked Doris. If you're a freak and you like to pick Montmorency, ML Haste, I think they're all really good 4-5 picks.
Personally, I do find myself picking Rhea in 3-4 a lot if the enemy opens with something like a Tywin and maybe an RD buffer. I often find myself picking Rey 3-4 just so that I have a more flexible last pick or last couple of picks.
Yeah. Of course, it's always dependent on. It's always dependent on the draft and who you're against and stuff like that. But like generally, you'll pick it later in the draft. I guess if I were to, maybe like like it would be early picks, mid picks, late picks, and they would definitely go into the late picks.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna slot SSB into that like pick 5 too. I don't think SSB is great early.
I think she is a very strong 4-5 pick because at the moment, if you pick her too early, they just counter it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just get.
I think there's
punished.
just too many. There's too many counters to her that are meta right now.
Mm-hmm.
That if you pick her early, she gets punished. But she is still a very strong 4-5 pick. Like
I had some like really high ranked champion player take her against me like second pick, and I was like, "How did you get up here doing this?"
Yeah, sometimes it just be like that.
I'm just restarting my runs, and then we're gonna continue. The Ravis. Where would you slot Ravis? Because I think I've seen a lot more APOC lately, right? Because of Golden Boys.
Golden Boys. Golden Boy's natural counter is a Ravi because you just don't have enough damage to get through her fast enough.
I don't think she's 3-4 though. I still think she slots in that like pick 5, but a very high up in the list for pick 5.
I think A should be 4 to 5. I mean, it's dependent on which, if you're first pick or not.
Yeah.
So kind of like, is this good for like the tiers like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 4, 5?
Yeah.
And then Fire Ravi, do you think is also in there? I think Fire Ravi can be picked a little bit earlier. Personally.
Fire Ravi, it really is draft dependent, but she does sit between 3 and 5.
Yeah.
I think she's very low.
So if you have 4 or 5, I think if you have the last 2 picks, she is very, very strong there.
Mm-hmm.
She's insanely strong because their last pick either has to counter her, which you can just ban, or they just pick like a troll pick and then you just ban anything else.
Under this format, FCC goes up? Really?
Yeah, I think. Oh,
I don't think so.
I think her priority has fallen a little bit. I've noticed her priority falling a bit right now.
I still see a lot of people take her early. That might be incorrect of them, but I still see it.
I think it's actually a bit easier to punish. I think it's actually a bit easier to punish FCC right now than
There's
it
just
was.
so many Bazaars running around.
Than before.
Well, even I would FCC. You just lock in G.Purgis and you lock in Bazaar.
I mean, she's like a 2-3 pick.
I think she's like high 3. Like I see her picked a lot.
She's definitely not 1. She's definitely not a 1. I'd say she's between 2 and 4.
Yeah.
Mostly 2 and 3, I think.
What are you taking her against then in those scenarios? Like, what have they taken that you are now taking FCC at that point?
I take it into ML Crow. I take it into, it's mostly just ML Crow.
Because I kind of like Blue Crow more than FCC against ML Crow.
That's fair. But that's if you are more. I think if you're, well, I guess like Blue Crow is still really good in that sense. I think it's dependent on draft style. Because I think sometimes you want to just take the FCC so they can't double. If you're more of an aggressive player, you can take it to deny pick them, and then also, so they can't just like pick ML Crow plus FCC for as much damage mitigation as possible.
I find I end up taking her early when I'm essentially trying to deny it to the other player, and I know that like they like drafting Landy, and I don't want them to have those two, or or I'm worried about them taking. FCC does provide a good amount of mitigation against him.
Yeah, as Islet also said, like, you just the FCC pick also denies the tea time pick because it's very difficult to, like, if you pick tea time into FCC, you better be banning FCC, right? Like,
Landy. I forgot about Landy.
It's definitely one of those picks.
What do you guys pick Landy? I think Landy fits in a 3-4, 100%.
Yeah, 3-4.
I agree. She's insanely strong, I think, especially because of Guiding Lights.
What if Basar and Bisaria are pre-banned?
Then I think you just take the Landy and the FCC. Like,
Yeah.
although I very seldom do I see Berseria pre-banned.
I've been seeing more Berseria pre-bans as of late, but I don't think it's enough to like. I don't think it's that many.
Yeah, I agree. Units like Vivian, right? Vivian, I think, fits into the 5 pick pretty nicely.
Yeah, 4/5. Yeah.
I have not found a way to successfully draft Vivian.
I think you have to draft it when they're very slow. She is similar to ML Luluka in the sense that they're very strong 4/5 picks because once you pick them, you basically, if you find the right spot for them, they become almost must bans.
Yeah.
Um,
I
in
also
the sense,
spotted the... Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
For Vivian's case, you pick it into ML Tywin, and ML Tywin just cannot S3, right? You pick it into like it deny picks the A Tywin really hard. And then in, for example, ML Luluka's case, if they try to bulk up and they try to slow down the draft, if you pick the ML Luluka, what you can do is you just essentially steal the turn with the 15%, and then you just burst one unit. Like for example, against like a Ravi, or Fire Ravi, right? You just pick ML Luluka and then you just throw everything into that Fire Ravi and then just go from 3v4.
Yeah, they're
My
just
issue
kind of
with
force
Vivian...
ban
Sorry,
units.
go ahead, Ozakir.
Yeah, sorry. They're just kind of like force ban units, right? Like if you pick them last, or kind of like forced to ban them if their draft is tailored in a way that they can't really deal with them very well. So they're just very strong last picks, especially Vivian against like a Tywin S10Es, where I find myself picking her the most because she kind of like hard counters both of them.
Especially if you already have the ML Crow on your side with the Vivian.
Do you have her built at 250 with the CR boosting EE, or do you use the cleanse EE?
I use CR boost and mine's like 244 or something, so yeah, around there.
I think that's part of my problem because I was using her on the cleanse EE around like 230 speed, and it was just like she was just never getting a turn.
I think you have to speed her up and use the. I think the CR boosting one is still really important.
I was trying to use her to counter Cerise to like cleanse off some.
Yeah, but then you'd have to pick a Tywin and Vivian in that sense.
Like I said, I wasn't a fan of it.
Yeah, I think you pick her more into slow comps that are trying to like protect Stenny, for example.
I agree. I think the different E's kind of tailor themselves to different playstyles. Whether you want to play as a counter to a Tywin and stuff, or if you want to have her as a sort of pseudo cleanser. But I do think the CR boost is more powerful in this meta.
For Sev,
we can. It's just gonna be kind of hard.
Emma Lullabet would go in 4/5.
Yeah, for sure.
Think.
That's where I anticipate her being picked.
Because you need to wait for 2 debuffers to come out before you can pick her, I think.
Yeah.
But she's really strong in that scenario. But like, if you look at the way the rest of her kit, if you pick her 1-2, like if you pick her between 1 through 3, I guess we could separate the list into like 1 through 3 and then like 4 to 5 essentially, because I think your first 3 picks really define what you're trying to do, whereas the last 2 picks
we can do this by rotation, right? So like,
yeah. Well, we can keep messing around with it. I think, because I think this is a much better way to set up like where characters' priorities lie. Because, yeah, like an arbitrary list of S plus, like what does that even mean? Like I think every character is usable. Obviously, they're much better characters than the others, but
yeah,
like yeah,
a unit like Archdemon Shadow. Where would you throw
I think
Archdemon Shadow?
100% 4/5. I do not think you pick her early, but I think as a counter pick, she can be really potent if she works. Like if you get the counters, you get the strips, you get the seal debuff, like she can just run over a team.
Would you put Rowana in 4/5 then, or would you keep her in counter picks?
I think I would put her in 4/5. I think 4/5 is where all the counter picks essentially go. Right? because this is where you are trying to force ban. You are essentially trying to force them to ban something that you pick, because you want to make sure your first 3 are very coherent, and then you want the last 2 to be very disruptive.
That's fair. Yeah, yeah.
So preferred Fire Ravi build is counter set. Some people are running Sigurds. Sigurds is a very good 1v4 artifact. You rip the S3 and then you just like full heal and then you just kind of win the game.
I'll be right back.
I know a couple people are using Crimson Seed at the moment as well. That one is much more, I guess, stable. It doesn't have the same highs as.
It's a lot harder to solo.
Yeah,
with
it doesn't
a
have the
Sigurd
same
or-
ceiling because your S3 doesn't heal you. But it doesn't have nearly the same floor as Sigurd. Sigurd Aravi, because Sigurd Aravi's biggest problem is that if you just debuff her, she just kind of loses. Like you can just you can keep perma provoking her, and if she doesn't proc any counterattacks, she just kind of loses. Whereas Crimson Seed, you can take the provoke off and then rip your S3.
Thoughts on like Tempesturin? 4-5.
Tempesturin, yeah, 4/5.
She's
think,
very hard to draft in this meta, I think.
Yeah, I also agree with that though.
But I think if you find a spot for her, she can definitely pop off.
I agree.
Would you consider LQC also in that 4-5, or do you like picking LQC earlier into like the 3-4?
Really
range?
depends on it depends on the way they draft.
I would consider her like a high 4-5.
If they pick double dark and 1/2, then I will pick her 3. But other than that, I will put her 4/5.
Same. I find myself picking her early if they do pick like FCC plus another dark unit like RB or Rylet or something. But if they don't have like a lot of units that she's good into, I sometimes slot her into 4/5.
Yeah, I think
thoughts on like Rylet then? Would
Rylet definitely 3/4.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I
I
think
like Rylet 3/4.
because I think he can define your draft if you have, for example, if you have a really solid MLV on top of the fact that they draft in a way that MLV, like if they're 1-2 or they're 1 through 3 are very susceptible to MLV, you can pick, for example, Araz MLV, and then that is a very potent duo that you can just essentially kill them with.
I guess honestly though, these days I really pick him more 4/5. Like I think he's incredibly strong still in the right scenario, but I find that I only end up taking him when I know I'm getting first turn, and also Blue Crow and Viseria and Flurry are not on my opponent's team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
But I run like a lifesteal one on Talisman, so I kind of limit like the scenarios that I draft him. I think if you have like a speed Rylet, you probably pick him earlier.
Yeah, I think it's really dependent on their first 3 picks, I think.
Yeah.
Or like their first 2 to 3 picks. Because if they draft in a way that you can just pick the MLV and it's basically a force ban, you take it, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think right now with ML Crow running around, with Berseria running around, it is difficult to draft him early the same way you used to be able to, where you could pick him second pick, where you could pick him third pick very consistently.
Honestly, even G.Purg, right? Like G.Purg misses chunk him for like 2 to 3K.
Yeah.
Like he's just hard to draft right now.
And if he does hit, Rylet almost like one-shots him sometimes.
Yeah.
Plus with the frenzy changes, it actually does kind of it does hurt the very tanky Rylets, because the tanky Rylets used to, right, you'd just be able to just like stack 15k HP and then just like 3.2k attack and just put talisman on him and just like wait it out till his S3 can basically kill any unit in the game. But with the current frenzy changes, it's a little more difficult because it's all on the it's all attack percent now. So you need to have attack percent. You need to have crit damage in order for him to actually really kill someone.
Yeah, Hofine is good into Bazaar, but if they have like G.Purg or ML Crow with the Bazaar, it's kind of doomed, right?
I think G.Purg really messes you up. Like there's nothing Hufine can do about G.Purg, because you not only lose what it's like it's 15% if you max your S2. You're still gonna get pushed back 15%, and then Hufine I think pushes up 20%.
Mhm.
So you only get a net 5%. But then G.Purg is just like, oh hey, what's up? I pushed my team for 18%. So you just
Yeah.
you just lose.
Hello, here I am.
Yeah, there's
I
just so many
think,
units that destroy her.
I think
Yeah,
I
what up,
draft
Philo?
Yufine the most out of any player in Legend right now. I pick her almost every game, or like half my games at least. And I do think that she, if you do pick her early, it needs to be when you have G-Purg. You can't really pick her into a G-Purg, or you're just gonna like
You
counter
also
yourself.
pre-ban ML Crow though.
Yeah, I do. So I basically set up my draft in a way that Yufine is very powerful for me, sometimes as a 3 or 4 pick. But I think most players don't play like that, so for most players she would probably be 4 to 5.
I'm trying to see Alencia. I mean, if we're obviously Alencia's like a first pick, right? And then like second pick is also like Fire CC.
Really,
again.
I think
Again,
Alencia priority has
Yeah.
really gone down.
Yeah, I think
I would put her more in counter picks now.
I think
I think she's more of a counter pick.
no, I think Alencia is like first pick followed by like Fallen Cecilia and Fire
Oh,
CC.
true, yeah.
Follow the Amelkant too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, might as well just.
No,
Yeah, so
I do think
toxic.
that she fits into the 4-5 slot really nicely, but I don't think you can pick her earlier than that.
She can still be really strong, like against
yeah.
ML Lulu
And
or
defense
sometimes
buff is
Landy.
still huge, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard to again draft her early on.
I think she is similar to Rylet, where she her strip is super big. The defense buff. I honestly would put her like on the cusp of I see a world where you pick her 3,
I could,
but I think for the
could put
sake
her
of
here,
consistency,
I'll put her like
I
high
think
A,
she's
right?
similar to Ravi in the sense that they're very strong into like I think Ravi's a little more usable than Alencia, but I think that
Yeah, where do you take her 3?
I think you can take her 3 if they pick like ML Crow, like they look to defend a Landy or a or if they look to defend in Stenny in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
Or
Basically, if you
even
value AoE
Azarius.
plus trip against
Yeah.
your drafts.
Yeah.
Charmander. What other units am I missing? I feel like this is pretty much like the RTA meta in a nutshell. Oh, I guess OP Cigarette.
Oh,
OP Cigarette's
Opsig.
like cleave, right?
Oh, Opsig is okay. So if you're an Opsig player, you pick her 3, you basically force ban. She has so much draft capital. She is actually so good if the enemy plays ML Crow FCC. If they're really relying on ML Crow, she is easily a like 2-4 pick, because
Yeah.
what you can do is if they pick ML Crow, you pick, for example, G.Purg. You can pick G.Purg Opsig. If they, for example, ban if they take like Basar off the table, for example,
Mm-hmm.
you just pick G.Purg Opsig, they are forced to ban Opsig. Because if that Opsig gets through with G.Purg, you just die.
Yeah.
You actually just die. You just lose a unit. Like I killed Yong with it before because he picked ML Crow early, and then what I did was I picked G.Purg Basar into Opsig third pick, Rose LQC, and the way he drafted ended up he had to ban the LQC. I boost with Rose, I press S2 on Basar, and then I just I just ripped the. At the time, my Opsic was faster than my G.Purg. Probably like 15 minutes. I just like ripped the S2 into the A Ravi. I killed the A Ravi instantly, and then I just created a 3v4 situation for myself, or 4v3 situation. So
what do you
I
think about running her faster as like a CDOM pusher?
I think that's really bad right now.
I think that's just for cleave.
I
Only
think you're
for cleaving.
griefing. I think you're griefing at that point. I think using her as a CDOM pusher only works once, and then once they know that you do that, you will never be able to do it ever again.
Because I seem to really struggle against players that use her in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Do you draft G.Purg though?
I didn't have him built at the time.
Yeah,
I
G.Purg
think,
helps a lot.
I mean, maybe that was the thing I was missing.
G.Purg gives you a net. If she hits the pushback, you have a -2% net CR. So like, it's almost.
But CDOM would still go to the front though.
Yeah.
Well, at that point though, then you just ban the CDOM, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
you have a lot of. Yeah, I mean, you have a lot of maneuverability and or like flexibility in that draft, right? You pick the G.Purg early. You can pick Cerise or Celine. You can pick. You could honestly still pick the Cerise. You can pick Politis. You can pick ML Ball. Like you have a lot of options into super fast Opsig, and I don't think fast Opsig is good right now. I think Opsig on GL hiding behind G.Purg is much better, right? As of right now.
I agree with that.
Same.
Lilius, do you think she fits in like the 4-5 or more like the 2-4?
I think she's kind of doggy right now. I
kind of agree, but I also think that people are still.
If I had to draft her, I would probably put her 4-5.
Yeah.
But she's like not even a good 4-5. I think it's very easy to play around her right now.
Mm-hmm.
His damage really his damage is just an additional bonus, right? So not only does he provide so much, but now that he like does meaningful damage to everything, not just like it's not like he only does damage to like squishy units, right? Like he's doing meaningful damage to like the knights too, right? Like that's the scary part about G.Purg.
I also think that his meta in general just has a ton of AoE in it, so he naturally becomes more powerful in his meta.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's literally all the AoE running around.
Yeah, if it goes back to more of a single target meta, he won't be picked as much. But yeah,
like I really think it's the guiding light thing that boosted him up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
With everyone wanting to like be able to break into like these guiding lights, like
yeah,
or like Spectre Tenebri being such a high priority, like DPS, like outside of like I would say Landy, right? Like the two, well, not even Landy, right? Like the two like most contested DPS units I think in RTA are Arby and Spectre Tenebria. In terms of like just raw like pickability,
I think at the moment I think Stenny has more pickability than RB.
I agree with that.
Unless if you are Desu and you just pre-ban ML Haste and just pick RB anyways.
Yeah.
But even then, like he has RB counters ready, so like it doesn't even matter.
Mm-hmm.
But like ML Haste does make it a lot more oppressive because the game just once you pick ML Haste into RB, the game quickly devolves into how do I kill this RB to get ML Haste shield, because once you get ML Haste shield, you win the game.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have to think, how do I prevent ML Haste to either like how do I prevent the shield or how do I just ban him? There's nothing else you can do.
Am I missing any other units here? I put Kairon in like 4-5 because like he's seldom picked. I may even move him down to B, right? Because like
yeah, I would say B at the moment actually.
Because like Kairon's like hardly ever drafted. There's just so much stuff that like shits on him.
Yeah,
F10,
I think
like Cerise,
Viseria.
Hell,
honestly,
even
the 50-50 with I mean, of course that Holy Sack A Tywin just like kind of dumpsters him. Also the fact that you still have to deal with a 50-50 with Basar unless if you're running MLDB or his Shepherd of Chaos or whatever.
Shepherd of Chaos.
Hey, I'm running it. I have a
Wait,
plus
is it-
15.
Okay.
I want to use my. I'm using my
DC is
whatchamacallit?
unpickable. DC is unpickable right now.
Yeah,
DC's
rip
unpickable.
frenzy
Mhm.
changes.
Yeah,
With
the frenzy
with
change
the
is
frenzy
really
changes, like you just ignore DC until you can just constantly.
Yeah. Yep.
Right when that patch hit with the new frenzy stuff, I brought DC into the fight thinking like I'm just gonna win this, and then around frenzy 5 they provoked him, and I was like, oh.
You're like, uh-oh.
Are there any other characters? I guess like ML can also go in 4-5. I think I think
like,
ML is
VR
actually.
MLKen's kind of annoying.
I think ML is not bad right now. But it really requires them to draft a specific way in order to pick the ML
Uh-huh. He can work against AoE if they have a lot of
He
crit
just,
on their AoE
yeah.
damage.
Unfortunately, he gets kind of railed by Stenny,
LQC.
LQC, Landy.
ML crouch.
It's also hard to have enough Sigurd size for him, LQC,
Ravi
and Ravi.
Yeah.
Syngelica.
I don't know how many people run Sigurd on LQC though.
Syngelica's like B. I
Uh,
wouldn't even put her 4-5. Like
I think the issue with Syngelica is the fact that she doesn't have a unique buff. So if you go into Bassar, no matter how much ER you have, you just get pushed back. And then you
Mhm.
also get unbuffable. So I guess if you have a I know I fought Mevlin and he used Doris Syngelica against me to counter my RB, and it actually worked out pretty well because what he did was he just S1 and then brought his Syngelica back up with Doris because I had to S3 as Bassar. And then he just pressed S3 right after and like killed me. That was cool, but like other than that, I think the problem is that unless if you have a very specific setup for Syngelica, you just get dumpstered by Bassar. And even then, like if they just take the first turn, they kill everything around. Like if you're the problem with Syngelica is that she doesn't get an extra turn, so she doesn't get to S1 immediately. She has to wait until she comes back to do anything. And if anyone is in between that can steal a turn,
which
say
most RBs
yeah,
that are Gab take that turn before other
either
units move.
RB, Bassar, T-Time, like
ML Crowd.
ML Crowd, like you literally just rip your entire combo in between Syngelica taking her turn and then the rest of your team taking their turn, and you just kind of win.
Like, so even if you do kill the RB, if he takes one turn, Gabs once, and then they still get the ML Crow and like the ML Tywin, it doesn't matter. They're killing off one unit, right? And at that point, like they've already won. It doesn't matter if you kill the RB at that point because everything else dead.
Yeah.
A couple weeks ago, I ran into a couple Korean players doing. It was like a meme comp with Syngelica, where they took her pretty early, like second pick, I think, and they comboed her with like Cerise and Aras, and then like S10E, and like something else I can't remember. The idea of just like
Yuna?
overwhelming you with damage really quickly off the dual attacks. Yeah, like Stenny or Landy.
Is there any other unit that I'm missing?
Godmother.
Fire Shuri's Cleave. I know some people have been toying around with like a Guiding Light Bruiser Saria again. I don't think it's that great, but I haven't tested it that much, so I don't know.
I actually like the more I think about it, the more I think it's not bad. Because the reset on top of the strip defense break is actually very valuable.
Plus unbuffable.
Yeah, plus unbuffable.
Do you think she's like a 4-5? I think she's more of a 4-5.
I don't know
though,
if the meta. I think if the meta slows down a bit, I think you could probably pick her 4-5. I think she actually fits into 3 pretty well because by then you probably like know that you can pick her, and like the rest of the picks don't really matter that much. But I'm not too sure. Like I don't use her, but I think she's still pretty nice.
She seems kind of like a counter pick to those really tanky teams that don't have like Stenny on their side.
Cause yeah, like well, even then though, right? You can just if you have like a 240 ML Crow, you just rip the ML Crow S3, you reset the ML Crow, and then you rip the ML Crow S3 again.
I also like
so like it's a lot of damage.
I also like your speed tuned with your like lifesteal Rylet, right? Or on
Yeah,
200
like
speed, like you could set up that defense break to then just kill something.
Mhm.
yeah, I think she has a lot of flexibility in like getting the run back.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really strong. It's just I don't know if it fits right now because of how
How fast everything is.
Yeah, it doesn't fit
yeah.
now. I kind of built her up because there's specific players that don't really draft that way. You know, they draft kind of like Other, or I guess sometimes Aether Bulge, or
I mean, Malona drafts
Setsuna,
pretty
like
tanky.
Malona. Exactly, yeah. And so against them, I feel like it would be very strong.
I can see that actually working pretty well. Or even like not even the ML Crow, like recycling your defense buffs, recycling like your stuns.
Yeah.
Even like
Even just recycling her against like Ruel, you know, she S3s, Ruel cleanses, you reset Isari and you do it again, and Ruel now has to waste her S3 to get rid of that.
let's see. I don't Pavel, really? I don't think Pavel's that good.
I think Pavel's super bad right now.
Pavel's pretty dog.
I am with Cat on this one. Dude, Pavel's so bad right now. Like G.Purg just dumpsters you. ML Crow dumpsters you because you proc the shield. ML Bulb dumpsters you. Like, what do you do?
Yeah, I think Pavel's
Because
not great.
all he's good for is setting up CDOM right now. It's an unfortunate fact, but
I'll
he's
put him
really
in
only good.
Cleave, right? But like,
Yeah, like he belongs in Cleve, but I don't think he's that good right now.
no.
I think he's kind of doggy.
Queric? Queric is like never picked. I know
Queric?
Mevlin picks Queric, but
Okay, I think if you get the proper setup with Koeric, I think he's pretty good because not many people run effect resist right now. And I think that one turn silence on top of the fact that he gets a stealth can really come in clutch. Because his
he's also
S3 is
book holder.
actually well, yeah, he's also a book holder. So the thing with him is that his S3 is actually like really strong.
Mm-hmm.
It's got defense pen now, like unconditional defense pen now. It has an EE that gives him what, like 10 20, it's like 20% more damage with it, so it's like essentially a portrait. It scales off of his speed, and like it does like a pretty good chunk of damage on top of the fact that yeah, he's a book holder. So I could see a world where he could actually like be a 4-5 pick, but you need the stars to align in such a way that like honestly you could probably fit anyone else and you'd be okay.
Oh, you're right. I have to place them before G.Purg. There we go. Very nice. I don't think there's any other units, right? Like
You could rank Spess, I guess.
Spez, I guess. Spez feels like a 4 to 5 to me. I've never drafted my
Yeah, I
Spez,
don't really
though.
know where to put Spez, honestly. I think Spez is a fun character, but he feels more like a uh he just kind of feels like a fun character. That's about
Yeah,
it.
you play him if you want to have fun, but don't like expect to
Yeah,
like win.
I would probably do like a for fun like I would
I'm just gonna
rename
put him in
waiting
B.
room.
A yellow tier.
I would rename waiting room to just for fun units, and he goes into for fun.
Yeah.
I feel like Redicades goes into the 4-5 pick slot.
Really? I don't think
I've seen a
Dedicated-
bunch of people pick her.
I've seen a bunch of people pick her. I don't think she's that great.
I think she's
I think
too slow.
she's too squishy.
I'm gonna put
It's
her
not
in
so much.
B.
I think there's a lot of ways to actually abuse her, especially if you pick ML Crow with her. Because if you pick Opsig and if you pick Opsig Bazaar, you just proc the shield and kill her. Because she's just gonna ignore your Bazaar, and then you rip the S2, you instantly kill her. There's nothing she can do about it because no one brings like Water's Origin, no one brings like anything to protect her. She just dies. That's it.
ML Era Mui, I don't see those drafted ever.
I think Emma Ara suffers from the issue that too many characters. She suffers from the A Meru problem, but doesn't have as much impact as A Meru does with the seal. Because what ends up happening is if you pick, I guess Emma Ara works in 4-5. She's not the worst 4-5 pick. But the issue with her is that if they pick ML Crow, if they pick Rowana, if they pick SSB, you just you just kind of get dumpstered.
Fat
There's
Cat
not
is
much.
a for fun pick. I don't think Fat Cat's good.
Oh, 100% for
Same.
fun. It's so funny when you proc the dodge chance twice in a row. Other than that, he's
Doesn't
garbage.
Tetsu use him?
He's absolute
Tetsu's.
garbage.
Oh, you fight Tetsu, you're waiting 15 seconds for him to take his turn. Pepe Love.
Yeah, Sedge says as well, like, yeah, basically everything that, like, she is basically in the same vein as Tea Time. If you have Tea Time counters, you have MLR counters. Watcher Shuri is a
Cleave.
good cleave pick because he is one of the few characters that has defense ignore damage, and he is the only defense ignore damage that can crit and scale off crit damage. So,
And he has speed imprints.
and he has speed imprint, so he's very nice.
What about Mursa, actually?
I think Mursa really has fallen off because you only use Mursa to contest cleavers. Because she is actually a sandbag unit into tanks, I
And
think.
true damage.
Mhm.
Into bruisers. Yeah, like you just kind of run her over. Like Berseria is really strong. She's bad into Berseria for the same reasons as ML Violet is. Slightly better because she doesn't rely on a evasion buff. Her evasion is baked into her passive. But I think she doesn't do that much damage. And she just like she just gets countered by ML Crow Berseria essentially.
There's just more reliable counters to the things that she's supposed to counter right now than her.
She's really good. Yeah, I mean she's really good into like standard cleave, light cleaving, but she's just not very good into what is currently meta, which is some pretty tanky boys.
Yeah. Pretty tanky boys.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say this because I know some people have this built, but Green Rin.
Oh.
You know, more people are picking Green Rin. I think she is the tea time of Soul Weavers. Her highs are very nice. Her lows, not so nice.
I'm putting her in seldom drafted, but
I used to run a Green Rin a lot
definitely-
actually,
I
but
know
that was
she's
quite a while
definitely-
ago.
Clam drafts Green Rin all the time. It's a clam pick, yeah. I mean, no, I do think there's some viable like counter Green Rin has some like viable.
There's
draft
another guy that
situations.
picks Green Rin. He usually hangs out in Champion. What's his name? He picks her with Green Armin.
I think Green Rin is definitely a for fun pick.
I agree.
She has potential to pop off, but she is definitely a for fun pick. Like I don't think she's actually that bad. In fact, I think she's actually kind of decent, depending on like where you put her.
Here.
But I
Clam.
think her variability is she doesn't have the consistency that you want. And
I saw a quad
And I
gap
think-
team on a screenshot of Clam's match.
yeah, I think well, I think there's actually a lot of viable for fun builds, but I think they're just for fun, right? Like you aren't gonna actually seriously pick it unless if like because it's just all gambling, right? It's like all in on GME, right? Like it's actually just
Diamond
it's
Hands.
actually just gambling. So like
Yeah.
I would put all the gambling units in for fun. So like Spez, Green Rin, Fat Cat, like all the characters that when things happen, it's really funny, but because they're so inconsistent about it, I don't know if I'd actually put them in a tier list.
I guess.
Yeah,
Elena?
in that same vein, right? Kowarik would also go into for fun because I think Kowarik in the right, when the stars align, he's great. But when the stars don't align, I don't think you could honestly just pick anyone else.
Do you guys see Elena picked? I see Elena picked sometimes, actually, in the 4-5 slot.
I think Elena's super bad right now. I think
I
Elena's
also think she's really bad
incredibly
because of Basar, but I do still see her pick.
I think Elena is just so bad right now.
She's just kind of like a counter cleave pick, right? If you can.
I think Politis kind of dumpsters her. On top of that, Basar giga dumpsters her. She doesn't provide any all she exists for is stalling for one turn. That is all she does. So like if your character, like if your team comp is designed like very few team comps nowadays, very few drafts are designed that if you can't take that first turn, you lose. Only like maybe Cleave suffers from that issue. So because you can just stall a turn, she just like doesn't do anything. Like
I feel like she could be picked against certain Cleave teams. Okay.
yeah, but
I feel
Cleave
like
is
there's
dead.
just so many options though.
I think Cleave is
Yeah.
super dead right now.
You could
There's
draft
just
like
better
a lot of
cleave
things.
counters than her.
And the problem is that like it's really hard to build her so that CDOM doesn't cut her.
Yeah, most
Yeah.
CDOM's cut anyways, so it doesn't matter.
I think right now there's just too many things that put her in the dumpster. So I just don't like her at all.
Mort will go into 4-Fun XD.
Oh, Mort is a 100% for fun unit. I think he's actually really fun to watch. It's just he honestly sandbags some games. It's actually kind of funny.
It's similar to Spacia.
Yeah, MLM tier basically.
I think that's pretty much it for drafting
Yeah.
draftable units in RTA.
I think at the moment, yeah, for all the units I see, I think that
someone asked about Broman.
Broman. I think Broman is
He's one of those inconsistent
he is
units.
a for fun unit.
Mhm.
When you get the highs of Broman, you just win the game. If you get the lows of Broman, he actually sandbags you.
Yeah. DD
He's also
tier.
very weak against A Taiwan and G.Purg.
Mm-hmm. He's super weak. He's super weak into A Taiwan.
Mm-hmm.
Like if they pick A Taiwan and they pick anything else to deal with Broman, it's over for him because he just doesn't put enough debuffs.
Oh, DJ Bassar? Doobix would probably say.
Oh,
F tier.
DJ, yeah, he is one. No, he's definitely a really strong 4/5 pick at the moment, I think. But you have to be very careful with him because he inherently doesn't really do anything after his S3. So you draft him only for S3. But I will MLM him any day of the week. I think he can do some really like because the thing is that he is an ML run counter. He is a you basically have a 50-50 with Flurry with him. He completely counters Cerise. What
Wait,
else?
doesn't are you building him with ER?
No, you just build him fast. You put
Doesn't
Vile
ML
on...
Rin just stun him?
No,
Potion
because you have
Vial.
Potion Vial.
Oh,
Yeah.
tech.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Potion
Not
Vial
everybody can
actually
run
like makes a
fast
lot of
EDB,
things viable.
Unfortunate.
Yeah. I think he only needs to be like two like
Well,
well, he has to be like
280.
270s. He has to be like 270s, yeah. And you do have to be very careful with Tea Time because Tea Time still fucks you. But
Yeah.
other than that, he's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much it in terms of units, I think. Unironically I've seen G.Purgis a couple times, and then
I think he's a for fun unit. I don't think he's actually
Yeah.
that good. He might as well just pick any other unit like A Meru. Because
Like-
at least A Meru provides you stuff. G.Purg or not G.Purg. He has the stun and slow, but if you have immunity, like just kind of
I love it.
sandbags.
Like there's a guy that I was playing I forget, he was an Asian server player, but he drafted G.Purgis into my ML Taiwan ML Crow and didn't ban either of them. And then my ML Crow just got to horse like turn after
Yeah,
turn.
it was
after
just
turn.
playing. Yeah, I'm almost done. Yeah, it's basically just playing a slot machine with him. So
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's gonna pretty much wrap it up for what we have here. I'll post this list in the Discord as well as a link to it when I eventually upload this video at some point. I don't know when I will. But I'd like to thank Rikazo, Mace, and Doobix for taking their time out of their day, their very busy days, to
yeah, I'm like getting the stink eye right now because
Doobix has friends over.
they've been here for like 2 hours.
Imagine having friends.
Imagine having
but-
friends.
One quick addendum though, I would move Ruel up. I I think Ruel's actually a really strong pick right now.
Really?
Yeah,
I
I think
guess in 4-5,
Ruel.
yeah.
I think Ruel like 4-5 is actually really good right now. Most of the time I have to, if they pick the Ruel, I usually have to ban the Ruel.
Yeah, that's
But
fair.
other than that, yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much gonna wrap it up for us here. Thank you guys for chilling and listening to us ramble about the meta and stuff. But again, thank you, Rikaza, Mace, and Doobix. Mace, I'll put your links and stuff too if you want to just send me all that stuff. But
Oh, sure, thanks.
but yeah, thanks for hanging out, guys, and we'll catch you on the next video.